Welcome to today's Procast. Today's guest probably needs no introduction. He is currently serving as the Apprenticeship and Future Skills Executive Director at Exeter College, where he's held that position for 9 years. He's also the Vice Chair of the Green Construction Advisory Panel, or GCAP, seeing it through, firstly, regionally grow, to more recently, the implementation of this model to a national level. He has worked overseas supporting the educational development of developing countries. This has included countries like Nepal, Morocco, and is soon to visit Malawi to support the development of green skills with colleges and employers. A guest star of the show Pointless, with a trophy to prove it, apparently. He is none other than Mike Blakeley. Mike, good afternoon and welcome to the Procast.
What an intro, Nick. Thank you.
My pleasure. So Mike, you have been described as a bit of a disruptor, impulsive, doesn't know for an answer, but gets things done. Do you leave like a trail of chaos wherever you go, or is it all kind of managed and all kind of tranquil and it's all good at the end?
There's this massive drive to do things and do things well. And I think, sometimes standing on your laurels and waiting for all these things to fall into place, you could be stood there a long time. Exeter College is known throughout the country as one of the best colleges around. Ofsted outstanding, expert provider, often heralded as the way to do FE. And one of the things we've got there in our values is ambition, collaboration and energy. And it's all about that energy. And it's making sure that actually, if there is an opportunity in education, it adds value to our community, it supports our employers or supports 15,000 strong learning community, then sometimes you just got to grab it and you just got to make it happen. And I suppose, from a very, very young age, if you read my school reports, Mike was very much busy.
Yeah.
He was probably not concentrating quite as much as he do and never, ever met his full potential. And the reason for that was I was simply probably being that early disruptor in that class. And yeah, you're right. Some of those behaviours still live on. But what it actually brings us as an organisation, what it brings my team is absolutely in the pursuit of excellence. And I'm really, really proud of what we've achieved as a college during that last 10 years.
So the acronym FE for further education sector, to the audience that are not familiar with it. And I looked at the biography that was sent through. So Exeter College definitely bucked the trend in the growth of students and where it was going. So explain a little bit how and why you think Exeter College bucked the trend and is so successful or has been so successful.
Yeah, I think across all of our measures, you'll see Exeter College right up there in the top of the leagues in terms of its performance and its outputs. And what drives that? There's a brilliant team around Exeter College. Our principal, John, is viewed nationally as one of those go-to guys in terms of support, advice and guidance. He sits on many advisory panels. There's a brilliant team across the executive, both curriculum and business development wise. And I suppose around me, there's a team of 40 plus individuals that are out there to support employer need. Why did we buck the trend? Apprenticeships are massively important to the economy. They're important to young people. They're important to business. Sadly, over the last sort of 3 or 4 years, you've seen a downward trend in terms of volumes. You've seen a drop off in terms of level 2 and young people join apprenticeships. And that is the next generation. Without those in place, we are really, really going to struggle. We report a very, very different picture. When I started 10 years ago, our contract value was around about 2.8 million. We probably worked with about 300 to 400 apprentices. Today, we're edging a £9 million contract, 1,800 apprentices in learning at any one time, a delivery model that stretches from sort of the tip of Cornwall right the way up through to London. And why have we done that? Simplicity. Employers are busy people. If you put bureaucracy and hurdles in their way in terms of recruitment of young people, the answer is often we're not in a place to be able to do that. We think like business. My background isn't in further education. My background's been in the commercial sector. So I wanted to test myself in that environment and see what actually you could bring to a large FE organisation. And with managed freedoms and support of the executive team, we've done an absolutely brilliant job. And most of all, I think when you put the decision-making matrix in front of you in the world of FE, it's often very much led by a college need. So if you're an employer and you phone up an organisation and go, I would like X, or could you do Y, or is this a possibility? What generally happens is the answer comes back as a no, because simply it doesn't work in an FE framework. It's really, really difficult to implement. So with the support of my faculty colleagues who head up all of the different areas for our 90 or so apprenticeship programs, they actually started to work with me, and we put the employer need and the learner need well ahead of an FE college's need. And actually we started to test the water by always going, is it possible? The art of the possible is a brilliant thing that I read about all the time, but that was absolutely, is it possible to meet employer need in a different way, one that doesn't affect quality, one that doesn't put you at risk? And actually we found a formula that does work. So this is some simple approaches to the common business challenges adopted by an FE college, and actually it can be transformational. And I think last year, the second biggest college in the country for starts in the apprenticeship programs, a unique space that actually little old Exeter should never really sit in, but hey, we're there, and I'm absolutely delighted.
Why not? And just to kind of conclude on this section, I've got it here in November 2022. You led the apprenticeship team at Exeter College to sustain an outstanding status with Ofsted. So congratulations on that, and may it continue.
Yeah, and a rare old accolade in our industry. You know, an Ofsted outstanding is a tough mark to reach. Apprenticeships in our world probably leave a footprint across 200 or 250 staff who are involved in those apprenticeship programs. And the pride that we have as an organisation to be an Ofsted outstanding college, and one that I think, as I say, is something that you don't see that many apprenticeship programs reach that height. Hugely proud that the team were able to achieve that. Fantastic. Excellent.
So the next section is, I want to know, or the audience would like to know a little bit about Mike Blakeley. We did a little bit of research. So we Googled your name, Mike Blakeley, on Google, and when we hit return, it said you were an Exeter Chiefs and England rugby international. What was that all about? Have you had a distinguished rugby career that I don't know about?
Well, obviously, you see me walking, I'm dripping sporting prowess and talent. Absolutely, without a doubt. That's so. It's weird,
why do you think that association?
Yeah, weird. So, part of my sort of day job brings us into contact with Exeter Chiefs all the time. So that evolved into a lot of work in terms of second career for professional sportsmen. From that, I've got some brilliant friends that are well-known names, in the rugby world. England internationals. Very, very good friend of mine is Don Armand. I started to work with him as he came to the end of his rugby career and helped him support him in terms of the direction of travel he was going. And somewhere down the line, our profiles have morphed.
Wow.
So Mike Blakeley on LinkedIn, when you Google it,
yes,
then rolls into Don Armand's profile. So Don and I have shared that moment with each other. And I'm looking at Don going, how's that happened? Don's looking at me going, how's that happened? And ultimately, we've just parked it for about the last 2 weeks going, neither of us are entirely sure. Yes. But the irony of it is when Don was playing rugby, yes, we were absolutely convinced, following a chance meeting in France at an away game, we met Don's doppelganger, who introduced himself as Don. So Don was an imposter. The real Don Armand was never playing for Exeter Chiefs. And now Don is obviously trying to find another person to mimic, and has obviously picked me to be that person. So yeah, intrigue. There is no answer to it. There's no solution to why I remain as an England rugby player, having played for Exeter Chiefs, but it's an accolade I'll take. Thanks very much.
But you practiced a bit of rugby in your time, did you? Or
yes, I was a distinctly high-energy rugby player with limited skill. Wore myself into the ground by about age 23, 24.
What position?
Played hooker.
Okay.
And
it's a bit of pressure on
the
old limbs and neck,
yes,
and all sorts.
Pay for that daily. So had my first ruptured disc when I was about 18. Had my last ruptured disc at Christmas this year, which was 5 days in hospital over Christmas. And but I loved every minute of rugby. My weekends are taken up with rugby now, so I coach a very successful under-16s team down in Torbay. And this Sunday, actually, will be their last ever game of junior rugby before they all become Colts. And I watch my lad who plays rugby. He's chosen a much more passive position to me. So he's that gobby scrum half, which he's certainly got the mouth for it. And
some more skill, presumably.
Without doubt, 100%,
Because hooker, you just need to turn up.
And just run at people and just hit them as hard as you possibly could and pretty much go, look, if I can actually just be a speed bump, then that's my duty and that's my job to do. So, he then moves on to Colts rugby, and all of a sudden I've got Sundays back. What on earth am I going to do?
We'll come to a little bit about how do you spend your free time, but just to digress a little bit on rugby and just wanting to have your take on it. What do you think about because I think it would remove a lot of the excitement from the game, but maybe you might think otherwise. What do you think about kind of all the murmurings of removing the scrum and reducing kind of that training and that impact as you go up through the rugby ranks?
I think I would hope the DNA of rugby would pretty much stay the same for the foreseeable future. It is a combative sport. I saw something at the weekend on what was Twitter X, talking about the fact that at the end of the day, when you are out there playing, you have to accept that there is a risk. I think that the gains at the higher level rugby have to be around the contact time outside of that 80 minutes. I know now when you talk to some of the professional rugby players, they're doing less in contact throughout the week in terms of training and things like that. I really admire the work that's been done around technology, bringing that to the game. Mouth guards that assess the shocks that are coming through. The tackle height, absolutely essential that people are putting themselves in the right positions to be taken down. And I never, ever disagree with a yellow card when somebody's done it wrong. It is a split-second game. Mistakes will happen, but ultimately we can't put our opposition at risk. And, from a dad perspective, my lad's that nippy scrum half. He's a very sort of slight guy. He's smaller than the rest of them, but he puts himself out there. And there's part of me that goes, there is a risk here. But the enjoyment I see on those guys' faces, you stop playing rugby at under 16 in my hometown. There isn't a lot of other options that you could be doing 2 nights a week and on a Saturday. Where do those young people end up? So, long may it continue. Long may the game develop in terms of its protocols around safety. But the day a scrum disappears or something of that ilk will be the day I don't think I'll be rocking up to Sandy Park to watch a game of that ilk.
Brilliant analysis. Now let's go back to your professional career. So from the start and some of the decisions that you made to how you end up being, in a quite prominent person in the further education sector. So tell us a little bit how it all started. And you said you had a commercial career beforehand.
Yeah,
give us a little background.
I think I overdosed on Mr. Ben as a kid. I used to have this massive desire to be everything week by week. And my early career started off in exactly that vein. I dropped out of college.
Were you a dreamer?
Was I a dreamer? Yeah, I absolutely was a dreamer without any substance behind it. I did dream big. I had massive aspirations to go into wildlife photography. I didn't watch kids' TV programs other than Mr. Ben. Obviously, I overdosed on that. But I wanted to be out there doing the work of David Attenborough from a very, very young age. Weirdly, I since found out that a whole host of the first series of Life on Earth, the original one, was actually filmed in my hometown in an aquarium on the harbour side. So there was a sort of natural link. So massively passionate about wildlife. But growing up in a small coastal sort of holiday resort, there was never any ambition out there in terms of, I think the expectation was you grew up in your town, probably like most towns, you live in your town, you work in your town, you probably sadly end up dying in that town,
And you surf. We
have the Brownwater Classic in my bay.
Okay.
So once in a blue moon, you get these easterlies rock up, and there's a bit of rough water. It's certainly not like the Cornish coast down there. So anyway, school did okay, got all my GCSEs well above. Was pretty much thinking about going into something around medicine, where my parents were from. Remember the moment well where I took my mum out for the 3-cooked sausage roll and a coffee and said, "Mum, it's not for me, I'm going to drop out." And she said, "What are you going to go and do?" I said, "Well, the good news is I've actually got an apprenticeship." And she was like, "Wow, okay, what is it?" I said, "I'm going to go off and do farming." And she looked at me with an absolute what? So a boy from a town who's probably owned a pair of welly boots, and that was about as close as it got. Suddenly I had this passion for the outside world. And there I had, I suppose, this aspiration of being out in the,
Yes.
open air and a bit of contact with nature and so on and so forth. Did that apprenticeship, residential at Agricultural College, great experience, but was clearly understood. And the farmer took me to one side and he said, look, unless you're born with several hundred acres under your belt, this isn't the industry for you. Go and do something else. And then I went on this weird and wonderful sort of job every 6 months type mentality, which included building. I went and worked on the roads. I had a stint on a mid-channel crabbing boat, which I absolutely loved, but it was the toughest job in the world, which started by going, if you make the first week without losing a leg or dying, you're doing well, Mike. So, you knew you were in a tough old environment. And then I ended up back in the building trade. 4-ton skip to fill on my own. It was about 4 meters away from a big pile of earth, but it was 30 meters one way, 4 meters up a muddy bank, 30 meters back. And that took me till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, probably raining. And I remember the last barrel load as I chucked the wheelbarrow in, I said, I'm done. I went and saw the boss, he patted me on the back and said, well done. I said, and I'm now going to go over to college. And I'm going to go and enroll on a course, probably about 19 at this point in time. And he said, brilliant. He said, that's exactly what I was hoping you'd come and tell me one day. So I went off and enrolled to go and do an accountancy course. I love numbers. My team go mental as I'm asking for that number, etc. And so I went back to college. I worked throughout college and I loved it. And last few months of college, my then girlfriend's mum said, we're working on a program for young people. And it was basically young lads who'd fallen out of school. They were quite disruptive. It was all run by females. They had no male representation in the building, essentially. She said, would you come over and be a sort of mentor for these young lads with behavioural problems? And that was my first toe into education. So I did that for 6 months. I said, I'm going to leave after 6 months and carry on with my accountancy work, go and get a job. 6 months came. I think I forgot to leave. Then it went to 12 months. And then by about the age of 21, 22 maybe, I was in the management team of a £3 million charity dedicated to supporting young people. Absolutely loved it. Really cut my teeth in terms of understanding the challenges that young people had. The beauty of it, I think, being was I wasn't that much older than them. So you could really relate to it and get a feel for how they were. So that's how I got into education. Then I went off into the world of commercial education. So I went and took a business, turned up there as a director. Again, still probably only mid-20s, very young. Was given a brief of going, look, we need to grow this organisation. We went on this crazy drive, which included an Ofsted outstanding. In that period of time, we went to about 8 million turnover from about 2 through one of the recessions that was the 2008. And worked exceptionally hard to bring that to reality. But that absolutely taught me about business. And it was a brilliant grounding. It was a hard business to work for. They were tough. Bottom line mattered. Quality mattered. Mm-hmm. And as I say, I learned a huge amount from what was quite a roller coaster evolution of what became a very, very good and big training organisation.
So that took you into the early 2010s?
Yes. So 2013, I left there. I had a little stint in FE. I went and worked actually in the Agricultural College where I did my apprenticeship. I thought as alumni, I could go and give something back. That was tough. You know, FE is challenged at times in terms of finances and they have to make ends meet and you have these big estates that you have to look after. You've got increase in salaries. And I found that really hard because the freedoms that I had in the commercial sector suddenly disappeared and the budgets I had in the commercial sector suddenly disappeared. But again, working in a tough environment gives you a brilliant toolkit to work with even when times are good. Then I went on I think Clinton cards were delighted. I had leaving cards raining in every sort of 4 to 6 months as I switched jobs, worked with training providers, ended up working with Marks and Spencer's. They were doing some projects at the time in terms of regeneration in their communities and I was doing some work with their audit teams to make sure that they were achieving what they wanted to achieve. And then out of the blue, I was fortunate enough to be invited to a wedding in Thailand, and my phone went off, and it was our current principal, John, who said, "Oh, I've been given your name by somebody and said you might be worth having a chat." I said, "Look, I'd love to come and catch you, mate." I said, "But I'm
wedding.
Yeah, I'm probably about 6,000
Where
miles
was that?
away."
Koh Samui?
We were in Phuket at that point in time, having the whale of a time, and I said to my wife on the Sun Lounger as the kids were in the pool, etc. I said, "Oh, that was Exeter College." I said, "They're quite interested in having a chat about a future job." And Exeter used to be one of our competitors. I used to take great pleasure in growing businesses around FE colleges and sort of grabbing some of their cake. So anyway, get back into the UK. John does a brilliant thing, takes me for a coffee, says, "Look, there's a job opportunity here if you want it. We're pretty keen to see what a bit more commercial mindset would bring to an FE college of our nature." And I took on a 6-month role, shook on it, turned up, inherited what I'd say is an absolutely brilliant foundation stone, good quality provision, really positive teaching staff, some great people to work with in terms of business engagement. And I was sort of set the challenge of just see what you can do. So I mentioned managed freedoms earlier. That was a big part of it. Get on and get it done. There was no blueprint. And 6 weeks in, I remember having a conversation with one of the vice principals, and she said, "I know you're only here for 6 months. Would you think about applying for a more permanent job if it was available?" And it was a really easy answer. I was loving it. And for me, having a smile on your face and loving what you do, we all work long hours, and it's a hard old graft. So if you're not actually at the coal face enjoying it, and hence probably my transient nature up until that point, I wasn't prepared to do it. But I genuinely was loving it. It's been a brilliant, nearly 10 years. It'll be 10 years in August. And we've achieved well beyond expectation during that period of time. And as I say, I look back on those last 10 years and I look at the brilliant people that I've recruited, the brilliant people that work day in, day out to support apprentices, employers, develop the future skills provision, and all of the brilliant stuff that Exeter College does. And yeah, great place to work.
So I hope that Seb and I will be invited to your 10-year work anniversary in August. So
You will be. Well, in fact, our 10-year anniversary will be, I believe, the 21st of June. You guys will be involved. We're lucky enough to get some absolutely brilliant sponsorship this year. Thank you, Nick.
No problem.
And we will use that 10-year sort of awards to celebrate what actually makes us brilliant. So whilst we're all putting the energy and effort in, we're nothing without brilliant apprentices, we're nothing without brilliant employers, and we're nothing without brilliant supporters such as yourself. So thank you.
Can I say you will also be guest speaking at this year's Southwest Energy Efficiency Awards in Sandy Park. So you'll be one of the keynote speakers as well. So I think we look forward to that. I think that's 16th of May.
Okay. Had you said that to me yesterday, I would have looked shocked. But yesterday, one of my friends who works in the construction industry sent me a screen grab of the agenda or the programme with my name on it going, "Ha ha, I'll make sure I'm in the loo when this bit takes place." So I'd had a sneaky preview that might be coming my way. So, but no, as ever, the opportunity to talk to any audience about green skills, what the college does, it's always a brilliant opportunity because it's an important message that we need to share.
And that leads us onto the, I think the key aspect of the podcast. So let's talk. So fast forward, we are, let's say, well, recent times to Exeter College, the Future Skills Centre itself. Give us a bit of background how the Future Skills Centre started.
Yeah. So the Future Skills Centre is...
and what is it?
Yeah, and what is it? So envisage a 30 classroom building with huge, great workshops, modern, plenty of glass. It's an absolutely brilliant asset for us as an organisation. Exeter College, biggest challenge is space. Year after year, we start the year well over 100% full. We have to be innovative, smart. We have to use community assets to deliver all of our learning. And the Future Skills Centre previously was known as the Flybe Training Academy. So Flybe was the regional airline, started off as Jersey European, shifted over to Exeter as its base, grew, probably 4,000 employees at its height. March the 3rd, 2020 still lives in our sort of mindset really, really highly as the D-Day for Flybe. And sadly, when it was announced that they were going into receivership, what we were left with was we were part tenants of that building already. So all of our engineering programs were based there for aviation engineering. We had a number of staff that worked in that building. We had apprentices in that building, and we had a whole lot of friendships in that building because we'd worked very, very closely with Flybe for a long, long time. Personally, I had to try and find 30 or so apprenticeships opportunities for these young people, the future of aviation engineering. We then hit COVID. Lockdown wasn't that many days thereafter. And it became a tough old period in terms of trying to support these young people into success. We managed 3 or 4 immediately. We found another 10 or so as time went on. But lingering in the background, obviously, was this amazing training academy that was sat there empty. And Devon County Council, who we work very, very closely, they made an offer for the building. They purchased it, and we picked it up then on a long-term lease. And instantly set about transforming it with some support from our county council and regional council funding to transform that into our Future Skills Centre. So today it hosts, as I say, 30 or so classrooms. You could walk in there, you'll find professional construction, you'll find advanced engineering, you'll find aviation engineering, you'll find all of our professional programmes, you'll find a thriving conference business. We're hosting hundreds of businesses throughout the year in terms of meeting rooms, up to 160 people at any one time. We've got a big network of activity with Devon and Cornwall Police. We've got flight simulators in there. We've got 2 jets parked outside the centre, and it is a unique space. My danger is because I work there and I see it most days. I forget how brilliant a space it is, but it's never lost on me when we show guests around and that everybody from the sector goes, wow, I wish we had one of these. And people who come there as guests, as have you, go, what a great space this is. And it's hugely collaborative and it's an absolute hub and it's brilliant to be able to grow into that place. But again, we're already full. So watch this space in terms of the next developments.
Well, Mike, I feel a bit disappointed now because I've been to it a few times, but you haven't shown me the 2 jets that are parked opposite. So
it's obviously days I didn't fly them in. That was the problem. Yeah. So it's weather conditions.
Is that your distinguished aviation career as well that we
Absolutely,
don't know about?
Yeah, we'll save that for the next one.
For the next podcast. Which actually, me sort of being there, and we recently had a green construction advisory panel, bit of a mouthful. Let's just call it GCAP, shall we say? So tell us about that idea. I mean, you for people new to GCAP, you always on your opening spiel or when you go up there and you introduce new audience members at the GCAP to the GCAP, to tell us how it started and
Sure.
how it's sort of grown over time.
The future skills part of my role is diverse. You know, we in education take our responsibilities really seriously, that we've got to equip that next generation to meet the needs of whatever the future lies in terms of workforce. And the loudest shout I think I've seen in FE for a long, long time is green skills. We've heard it shouted for probably 3 or 4 years going, colleges need to be ready for green skills. Colleges need to be ready for green skills. Peel that back one more layer, there's not a lot else there in terms of what we're being asked to do. And we decided that one of the horses that we were very, very keen to back on the future skills landscape, because we can't do them all. You know, as a large FE college, we want to do as much as we can, but we simply can't be everything to everybody. And if we're running 90 apprenticeship programs out of 700, 800 or so, you know there will always be gaps. But we were passionate about green skills. I've got a personal passion about green skills. You know, I'm keen on our planet. I'm keen to make sure we do our bit. And most of all, I'm keen to ensure that employers have the labour and the skill set that they need to thrive and move forward. One of the things we're very, very successful at Exeter, and Ofsted picked up on this when they looked at us, is employers are expected to be at the heart of our business and drive our business and shape our business. And on a small scale, we always run something called employer advisory panels, where we would bring small numbers of employers in to develop our approach to whatever sector we were working in, quality assure it, make sure that actually it was fit for purpose. And GCAP was an obvious one. We can't be experts at everything in FE, but if I surround myself with experts from the sector, we will do far better, and we will certainly meet the needs that they have. So GCAP started in my tired brain during the COVID era of going, let's bring some brilliant people together. We had line of sight to a couple of great characters locally who are heavily involved in the sector. And we said, look, you guys must lead on this in terms of bringing as many stakeholders as we can get together to guide Exeter College on its green skills journey. Emerging from that, I think as well, was a sort of strategic direction that said we wanted to be seen as the country's sort of leading FE college in the green skills space. And as I said, it's an easy win if you surround yourself with those brilliant people. So it started in the Future Skills Centre. I think it was 12 people, 3 of those from Exeter College, 9 from industry. We set them a challenge. We said, look, we will respond to your needs, but narrate what those needs are. And very, very quickly, we shaped a couple of things. Culturally, we said it's a you said, we did group. So I was pretty weary coming out of COVID, and I was on so many advisory groups and talking shops that a lot of it was just waffle. Whereas actually we wanted to have some action. So we clearly said, if you set us the challenge, we'll step up and we'll deliver. 3 main pillars came out of those first couple of meetings. One was to make sure that our skills offer was entirely right. 2 was to make sure that young people, so both schools and both college students, had clear line of sight to career opportunities. And the 3rd one was, again, back to our values, which I think we do live, eat, sleep and breathe in our college. One of those is collaboration, is to make sure that we work collaboratively so that duplication isn't a problem for our sector, because every college is on a similar journey. We're all, there's over 200 FE colleges across the country. If we're thinking we need to do something, there are several others out there thinking they need to do something too. And actually, if we share, we'll be far more effective at it. So GCAP was born. We love an acronym. GCAP sort of lands quite nicely. We have appointed a brilliant project lead, Luke, who has absolutely led with aplomb in terms of...
Luke Moss.
Mm-hmm. He's brought that together fantastically well. And again, we talk about the growth of Exeter College and beyond our wildest dreams. GCAP has then also accelerated beyond our wildest dreams. It felt like 12 became 24, 24 became 48, 48 today is now somewhere in the minimum of 160 in our GCAP alone. A long list of positive outcomes, certainly recognition nationally in terms of what we do and how we do it. 11 or 12 different qualifications developed by employers for employers, line of sight to exact needs through the data harvesting that we carry out. Schools projects, which put a huge smile on my face, having 9, 10, 11-year-olds standing up there going, this is how I'm going to retrofit my house to a group of 100 adults and presenting far better than I ever could. Probably one of the best memories we've had of our GCAP to date. And then all of a sudden, a national explosion of interest that is taking GCAP into a space that, again, I don't think we ever thought would be possible.
And from my side, I have to say it's been absolutely exciting to be involved. And it's one of the reasons that's how I came across yourself and through Paul Brown, one of our previous interviewers. But just saying, going back to January 24 when we had the last GCAP, and for our industry, which is the insulation industry, we had just naming some other names off the top of the hat. It's Simon Ayres from Trustmark was there doing a speech. Andrew Champ from SWGCAP, Solid Wall Insulation Guarantee Agency. We had the CEO of NOCN, which, associated with education, you'd probably expect, but just saying the caliber of people that attend, have attended, the last GCAP. And from that, which is really beneficial to the industry, we've had competency-based courses come out of it. So from a external wall insulation perspective, one of the problems that we've had, and Paul's interview, we talked a long lengths about it, is getting the quick wins, because we need to deliver all these targets. We need to reduce the energy demand. We need to make houses more energy efficient, but we've got a skill shortage. And the immediate thing that we could address is having people out there who are actually skilled at doing it, but it's identifying those individuals. And from that, we developed a solid wall insulation competency-based course backed by the industry, by SWGCAP, Inca, and the like. And that's collaboration with other system designers, and kind of watch this space, because it's that sort of collaboration that gets, and your leadership in kind of getting things done. It's it's not forgotten by the industry, and we look forward to kind of a lot more exciting work together on that. So
yeah, I think that there is a true example of that "you said we did" mentality. The amazing range of stakeholders that sit in that GCAP group. There's multiple representatives from all walks of life, and what really rang out, wasn't it, was that when you look at the depth of curriculum in green skills, it's certainly in need of further development. And the GCAP members said to us, we need competency qualifications. We'll use external wall insulation as one of the examples. And I'm fortunate enough that I've got the drive and the capacity within the team to develop what's needed. And then nothing makes me prouder, fast forward then to also January 24, where we all come up to the Midlands to meet with all of your competitors. It's a weird collaboration competition space that we all exist in this day and age. But clearly there is a want to develop competency qualifications. And a long old day on a dark old January, I get back in my car with a big smile on my face and going, actually, that's what it's all about. And the most important part for me around that, as I hit the M5 heading back down the motorway, and you think of those installers who've sort of grown into it, they've probably started off as maybe of a labourer, might start off plaster as a bricking, they've grown into this space, and suddenly EWI, which I didn't even know about 4 years ago. And now that person can go home after 3 days worth of training and say, actually, somebody's recognising my qualifications and I've got a certificate for it.
Yes. Yeah. And, someone's recognised the fact that, for the last 20, 25 years, I've delivered unbelievable projects, but I've never had the formal recognition that I am competent to do it. But on the flip side is, there is definitely a space for 100% for apprenticeships and for getting young people in, but then for someone who's, let's say, a seasoned pro, there's also space for competency-based courses that can be delivered by the industry to get a lot more skills-based labour formally recognised and delivering on some of the big challenges, whether they're privately or publicly funded in the housing and sort of insulation space.
And, the industry inspiration that we draw upon is there in bucket loads, and your organisation's a brilliant example of that. If you think about the journey 12 months prior to that, coming up to see you guys in Oxfordshire and see what you were doing, that is the foundation stone of going. There's all these people coming through the door, wanting to be better at their job, wanting to be upskilled. But if they've got nothing to go at other than a very long, complicated, highly bureaucratic 18-month qualification, the reality is that the industry will not adopt it. So again, probably a simple challenge, quite complex to execute, but certainly worthwhile, because you look back on those development stages of all of these types of qualifications that we're working with NOCN to develop. We know that actually all of it is worthwhile, because if we're going to tackle the Green Skills Challenge, close that gap, without a doubt, it's delivering the right qualifications in the right space with the right partners. That will have a positive impact.
And is the GCAP your proudest moment, or is it steering the college through the tough times of COVID and coming on the other side successful? What would you rank?
I'm one of those really lucky people, is when somebody goes, where do you put your proudest moment? The list is so long, and literally there isn't a week go by where we're not looking at something that we're hugely proud of in terms of what we're doing. I think GCAP has probably been the single biggest impact project that we've delivered. When you look at the potential, when you look at 300 or so members at a conference a month ago working together to make GCAP a national force, looking at creating a skills matrix that will sit across the nation in terms of what people need to be qualified in to work in the industry, looking at the fact that it's even picked up now in terms of interest overseas. That is a huge impact. And I probably still don't believe it, if I'm honest.
We'll come to that. Yeah, we'll come to that. Yeah. So you've just returned from Nepal.
Yeah.
And so you're out there for a week or so. Tell us how the interest arose and
yeah. So British
and
education,
how and what you experienced from it, and then what were the outcomes?
Yeah. The British educational system is heralded right the way around the world, and the British Council plays a key role in terms of coordinating a whole host of countries, mainly African and Asian countries, to develop and grow their response to their educational needs. So the British Council will make a call for projects. I've been involved, as I say, with a few over the years. Green skills has now become a big part of those call outs. So we've seen at least 4 projects in the last 12 months for countries to gain support in terms of their green skills. With Exeter College being a focal point in terms of green skills, then essentially at some point we were going to get linked up, which we did. And of interest, actually, it's not only supports with green skills, it's also supports with employer engagement. So the work that we do collaboratively with employers at Exeter College is also heralded as some of the best in the country. So add the prominence on green skills and the prominence in terms of our work with employers and stakeholders like yourselves, we know we've got a lot to give. But a week is only a very, very short time to make an impact. So you have 3 or 4 sort of online planning meetings. You meet a whole host of stakeholders from across the country. That ranged in that instance from government officials, chambers of commerce, other employer representative groups, colleges, British Council members, and you all try and find that common accord. So you set a game plan, you've put an action plan together, you land, you're straight in on it. Good news, Sunday is a day of work in Nepal. I'm trying to bring that into the world of Exeter. Let's see how we get on.
I think you might struggle.
Do you think?
That, but
we'll see. We'll see. We'll trial it with Luke. See how we get on. Yeah.
Oh, you'll be fine with Luke.
He'll be fine. Yeah. So you're straight into it, and we then went on this really amazing sort of evolution of an idea, which was the government very, very keen to grow their qualification base in the green skills agenda. Employers feeding back they don't feel they've got enough influence on the green skills agenda or any of the skills agenda. You've then got the qualification structure there going, we're not sure if we're ready for an employer revolution in our sector just yet. We're quite good at what we're doing. And then you've got the British Council sort of sitting somewhere in between there to bring that all together. Stakeholder visits out the way, a high tempo 3 days. We then launched a skills summit, which probably had about 50 people from across the country there, from all of those representative bodies. We presented how the education system works in England. We presented GCAP as an example of how employers can influence and grow education and be responsive. And it created some absolutely brilliant debate, but it has to be more than debate. So we set everybody the task in the afternoon of producing action plans. We broke people into small groups, and an age-old saying in Exeter is, what does success look like? So we set them that challenge, and we were fleet of foot in terms of picking up ideas and themes so that it was relevant. And by the end of it, we had what I would say is a pretty comprehensive action plan for the country in terms of making sure employers are heavily involved in terms of engagement on the skills agenda, with the view of going, if we use green skills as the example, it can then flood out into hospitality, engineering, manufacturing, and so on and so forth. Culminates then on our final day with a visit to the equivalent of Downing Street to meet, educational officials, and them really understanding the brief because they've been well briefed prior to us going there, but keen to hear more, and pretty much, a cast iron commitment there
that within the next 2 to 3 months, they will legislate
to ensure that skills are developed jointly with employers for all future qualifications.
And would you get some feedback on that?
Yeah, we do. So we've had a feedback meeting already, that it's still all in track. Little did we realise we would ever get that far. That was 7 days of pretty intensive work to get to that point. And the feedback from British Council is, we don't think we've ever had so much traction in such a short space of time. Desperately keen to see it come to fruition. And most pleasing, I still get the odd WhatsApp message from people we met out in Nepal who've now sort of moved over from that business setting into a sort of more of a friendship relationship. I'm a very keen watcher of the what's next. So fingers crossed, let's see where that goes.
And would you say, just from me being an outsider, not being present at events and just taking feedback from your experience, would you say that's the best of Britain, in a sense that that's us promoting the knowledge space, the know-how, and kind of exporting the best of it?
Yeah, it genuinely feels as though you're sat there in front of all of those brilliant representatives from all of those sectors across Nepal, waving the flag firmly for GB. And we are so well regarded over there in terms of education, and again, we are platforming the best of the best, and using the GCAP model, which they're now going to adopt, that's 3, 4, 5 years worth of development and thinking. And if we can share our key learnings and our highlights, but also the areas that don't work and the challenges that we have had along the way, and they can benefit from that, you walk away feeling extremely proud, going, actually, there's an example of making a difference. And British Council want to see more of that impact across the world. And I think it's a really, really positive programme.
And do you think, do they give you, you can't get assurances, but do the British Council report back to presumably as part of the Foreign Office?
Yeah, the arrangements that you have in a foreign country, if the British Council set out, once we've set our action plan in place, they have to then report back on its success. I'm assuming, the 3 projects that I've been involved with today, all of those very, very successful in terms of their outcomes. We've hosted reciprocal visits where they've come over to the UK from those countries to see what we're doing. And the costs are relatively small. The project in Nepal was less than £25,000 worth of funding to take that delegation out there. And I'm hoping that you'll clearly see that actually, from the green skills agenda, and massively impressed with the Nepalese approach to going, this is where we're going to be in terms of net zero. They've got a brilliant starting point. They're 100% of their energy can be clean. Their hydropower is amazing. The potential's there, but they just don't have the skills within that country and the space within that country to develop that next set of hydro engineers. And you can clearly go, actually, look, if that £25,000 seed funding has sparked the ideas around how they can grow that skill set and how they can have the workforce of the future, and then they'll be exporting electricity to India, they'll be exporting electricity to Bangladesh, that's the return on that investment, both in terms of monetary and what it will do for the environment, makes us very happy.
But and also, I guess my question is, have you received on the other side the feedback from Team GB? So where the British Council goes back to the halls of Whitehall and says, you know what, exporting the green skills agenda has been really successful, we should do more of it. Are you getting that sort of?
Yeah, I've been up to the British Council, which is based not far from the Olympic Stadium in London, and they certainly know that as a country, one of our most high-profile exports should be this piece around education, and they're very, very keen to promote that. And you can clearly see, as I say, most of the calls that are now coming out across the 12, 13 countries that are in those British Council-type projects, most, if not all, have some element of green skills linked into that. And as I say, we'll hopefully be able to support them on a long-term basis.
Awesome. So, Mike, looking back at yourself and looking at the future, where do you see yourself developing in the next few years?
Good question. I never look too far ahead. I met with John recently, and he was talking about my pragmatism around sort of the career development streams and
the principle of the college.
The principle of the college. There's a lot more work to be done in terms of partnerships. We are a driving force in our region. Rob, my vice principal, he talks regularly about the agenda. We generally don't adopt an agenda, we generally set one. We've got growth. So next year we'll be bigger than ever before. I think the green skills agenda, as GCAP grows in terms of its national prominence, that's hugely exciting. Not probably a week goes by where we're not engaging either through hosting other colleges, or we're being asked to go and deliver conference speeches or whatever it might be. There is a huge amount of work to be done, but we've always got to remain true to what we are at Exeter, which is delivering the best quality projects we can. We're on pursuit of excellence. So Ofsted, outstanding, brilliant job by Exeter College to get there. But the day we got that, we said, what's next? We don't settle for that. We want to go what's above outstanding. If you read our report, it's got the word excellence within it. So we set the bar high. And for me, what's next? Continuing developing that brilliant team around me, making sure that actually the brilliant work that we're all engaged with, they have absolutely got the platform to keep themselves interested, keep themselves busy, and continue to push Exeter College to the forefront of these agendas. And hopefully they might even do me out of a job, which I'd be very proud of.
Also, Mike, you did say in your bio you like to sleep a little bit more, so perhaps that's where you see yourself.
Sleep has been a bit of a challenge forever, actually. I can remember as a 16-year-old, even in my summer jobs, sort of like waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning going, hey, imagine if I could do that. And I remember this is the most random example. We used to, I spent my first, when I finished my GCSEs, I got a job at the local water park in their barbecue. And I got frustrated that when you used to give the customer their chips, they'd put salt on it at the side, and it would just finish the day. Salt was everywhere. So I said to the boss guy, I said, why don't we I've invented something.
Go on.
And it was a flap that you would flip down on brackets with holes in it, so you could put the chips in it outside of the barbecue area. And then if they put salt, then it would be over the floor.
Did you patent the idea?
Still in development.
But that's where you're going wrong. That should have been. Yeah. Did we steal that one?
It will be out there very soon. But he said to me, he said, Mike, I employ a whole lot of young people. He said, none of them ever come up with any ideas. So my brain is always working overtime. And I need to find those spaces to switch off. But answers on a postcard, how you do that, I'm not entirely sure yet.
No, brilliant. And so, I mean, you've had a terrific career so far. How would you like to be remembered so far?
How would I like to
by your peers, by colleagues, people outside?
Yeah, listen, I want to be remembered, I think, for hopefully leading what is brilliant teams to achieve brilliant things. I know my success is massively to do with the brilliant people that are around me. And without a doubt, I forever want them to be the best they can possibly be, and that means sometimes we're pushing, we're bucking trends, we're coming up with new ideas. The continuous improvement that is classified as that's just change all the time. It's a soft space, but we are constantly on that journey. And also, I hope whilst we do work exceptionally hard, we must do it with a smile on our face. When we're at the coalface for as many hours as we all are, if work isn't enjoyable, then we're not doing the right thing. So as I say, I'm hoping that's where it will be, but I never ever want to lose sight of the fact that what keeps us going is that young person today who's left school, bit bewildered, hasn't enjoyed education, steps into our world, and then 12 months later I meet them again and they're flourishing. They're a completely different person because they're in the world of work with education. And as I say, we must keep doing that. We mustn't ever lose sight of that's what we're there to do.
So Mike, I thank you for your time. I see you as a thought leader, and it's a thought leader in its truest sense, bringing business ingenuity into the further education services, and you've done a hell of a lot so far with your leadership, which I thank you for as I said, developing the kind of the competency-based courses that our industry was crying out for, and it was that intervention and that leadership that's that I think has taken us leaps and bounds, because without that sort of let's say referee or someone from the outside, we would have struggled to kind of come together as an industry. So hopefully as an industry we can return the plaudits, and well, not the plaudits, but return the favor in a sense that bringing through a lot of skilled folks out there who are skilled in in these application processes and getting them the kind of the competence certificate so they can kind of go and deliver on the green agenda. And what I'd also say to the audience, if you haven't heard about GCAP and you'd like to get involved, we will leave details on this video, and please get in contact with Mike and his team, Luke Moss. Send them an email, get in contact, and hopefully get involved. So thank you very much, Mike, for this podcast, and hopefully see you again soon.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you.